In this video, we're looking at functions that are defined piecewise. Now, what that means is, for a certain value of x, you use one rule. For another value of x, you use a different rule, and sometimes even more than that. I've got one function on the board here. It says f of x equals 1 minus x if x is less than or equal to 1, 2x plus 1 if x is greater than 1. Okay? Now, one of the things I want to do here is sketch this graph. And this is really pretty simple because these are both just linear functions. What makes this a little more difficult or challenging is the fact that this function is defined piecewise. And that tends to confuse students when they first see them. What this means is, as long as x is less than or equal to 1, we use this rule to find out what y is. If x happens to be greater than 1, we use this rule to find out what y is. Okay, now these are both linear functions. If I was to graph 1 minus x, and I think of that as negative x plus 1, a linear function with a y-intercept of 1 and a slope of negative 1. So if I go to my graph, and once again I've got an accurate graph, x-axis, y-axis are labeled, a scale is shown, how much is a tick mark worth. If I let y equal 0 for the top function, or for the top rule, then x is 1. My slope is negative 1, so from this point I rise negative 1, run 1. Rise negative 1, run 1. Or I could rise positive 1, run negative 1. Rise positive 1, run negative 1. Now the piecewise thing comes in. If x is less than or equal to 1, well, at x equal 1, I want to draw a circle there. Because it's less than or equal to, I'm going to fill that circle in. I'm not going to need this point. I lay my ruler down, because this is just a straight line graph, and draw that portion, or that chunk, of the graph. Okay? Now, the other part, if x happens to be greater than 1, I want to use this rule to find out what my y values are, 2x plus 1. Well, this, once again, this is a linear function with a y-intercept of 1, a slope of 2. Let's find a few points on that graph. If I start at 0, 1, and then from that point I rise 1, 2, run 1, rise 1, 2, run 1, rise 1, 2, run 1. Well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 points on that graph. Now, the rule, if x is greater than 1, so I go to, at my x value of 1, this point I need an empty circle. It's empty because strictly greater than. If it was greater than or equal to, if this is greater than or equal to, we wouldn't have a function. Because for one value of x, 1, we get two values of y. But, now, once again, this is just a straight line graph. Lay your straight edge down, draw a straight line, and there we have this piecewise function, or a sketch of it. This is the point 0, 1, and that's really all we need to label. Okay? Now, for evaluating functions, say for example we wanted to evaluate this at f of negative 3. Well, f of negative 3, first you have to ask yourself, is negative 3 less than 1 or equal to 1, or is it greater than 1? Well, negative 3 is less than 1, so we're going to use the top rule to find out what y value is. So that's going to be 1 minus a minus 3. And that gives me 1 plus 3, or 4. So that means the point negative 3, 4 should be on my rule. Well, here's 1, 2, 3, negative 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4. You see we do have that graph, or that point. If x is, say, 4, if we wanted to evaluate f of 4. Okay, well, now you have to ask yourself, is 4 less than or equal to 1, or is 4 greater than 1? In this case, 4 is bigger than 1, so we use the bottom rule to find the y value. And then we put in 4 for x. That's going to be 2 times 4 plus 1. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 gives us a y value of 9. So the point, or the ordered pair, 4 and 9, should be depicted on our graph. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it pretty much is. You have to have some issues sometimes with the chalkboard being real accurate. but it is pretty much on that graph. Okay, if you're doing this graph paper and pencil, it'll be a lot more accurate. The tricky one here is f of 1. F of 1, well, now you have to ask yourself, and really not that big of a trick, is 1 less than or equal to 1, or is 1 greater than 1? Well, a number can't be greater than itself, so we use this rule, and this is going to be 1 minus 1, which gives us 0. And that's why the circle is filled in at the point 1, 0. Okay, so piecewise functions, the main thing to remember is whatever value of x you happen to be looking at, look at the domain that's defined or described to you, and use that chunk of the, or that rule that goes with it. I hope this helps. Thank you.